It's the Wilk Report. I'm Michael Wilk, coming to you from Cleveland, Ohio. Back with me is Larry Bernard from Florida. How are you, Larry? Oh, Larry.
So we're going to talk about something kind of controversial, and like all sorts of controversial things on the internet, it's very hard to talk about. Not so much because there's not.
Yeah, I just lost you again. Not so much that it's not.
So talk about how we're going to talk about something that's big on the internet right now, but everything's kind of murky and vague and hard to clean up.
Yeah, because it's not like previous Me Too stories, like, say, against Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein or Les Moonves, where there's like clear accusations and evidence of impropriety. With here, it seems more along the lines of personality conflicts coming into play. So this is about Vic Mignogna, and following up on my video last week, which actually got a few hundred views on this, and some rather passionate defense from his supporters. But even that tends to get a little murky. So my last video, I reported how there are allegations against Star Trek Continues actor Vic Mignogna about inappropriate hugging and kissing of minors at conventions and alleged homophobic and anti-Semitic remarks. But as I pointed out in my last video, the evidence presented so far doesn't really stand up, and then there seems to be some stuff that could be misinterpreted, and his apparent assholery in real life tends to make it easy to kind of believe that he could be capable of it, but at the same time, the evidence presented doesn't really seem to support it. So, but I'm going to
start with one of my favorite pieces about this whole story. There's been some controversy where Anime News Network has been attacking YouTubers for...
Yeah, I just lost you again.
So here's what this... What was that?
Yeah, I lost you again.
Okay, so here's what the CEO of Anime News Network... YouTubers back and forth between his news network and YouTubers. I accept the criticism. Many of us at ANN have known about Vic's behavior. Deciding not to occurred to us to write about it. It took the Me Too moment for us to realize that we as journalists have a responsibility to make people aware of what goes on in these situations. So, accusations of people who heard other people say that Vic had drunk sex with them. One person say they heard a person.
Right.
You need a special movement to bring to attention.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah, because it does seem to be... Yeah, because Anime News Network was one of the outlets that reported on this, but there's, again, there's, there's, yeah, there's a lot of drama going on here. So, but really kind of, I want to go ahead and put up some of the things that may be contributing to the accusations against him being presented as more credible than they might actually be. On Polygon.com, with regards to the story, there's a commenter where the commenter Sci-Fi Girl says, after 15 plus years doing con staffing for multiple large conventions, and he is the one guest that I never ever want to deal with again. Nightmare from day one, right through till we put him on a plane. And she goes on to describe how he claimed that they didn't pay guests. But what she described was that the convention gives each guest per diem a set amount of cash that's intended to pay for food and travel and incidentals. If the guest spends lavishly at the hotel bar, it's not going to last. And if they stick to simple food and the green room where they get the food that's provided along with refreshments, and they can pocket quite a bit. And allegedly, Vic ran through his on Thursday night. Like the amount that's supposed to last him for the entire weekend, he blew through it the first day, and then spent the rest of the weekend doing what Sci-Fi Girl says she now recognizes a very polished trick, where he'd wait until he's supposed to be somewhere or was in front of a crowd. Then he would, in very ingratiating tones, ask his staff liaison to get him something. Oh, I missed breakfast and my panel is starting. Can you be here and snack me a muffin and a cappuccino? I just don't have time to make it to the green room. Why don't you go and get me a sandwich and a Diet Coke from the coffee shop in the lobby? And it's always done in front of an audience. When the staffer returns with the requested item, he'd always be mid-conversation or on the run to somewhere else, and he would just overwhelm the staffer with praise. Or everyone, can we clap for my Angel Mary? Isn't she the best? Which means that you couldn't actually ask him to reimburse you, because now you're in a position where you've just paid out of pocket for what a guest wanted because he blew through all his allotment of money, and you're under strict orders to keep the guest happy. So you didn't go, so you owe me $6. You just smiled in your best customer service smile and counted the hours until you didn't have to deal with them anymore. And he still owes Sci-Fi Girl $30. So, yeah, and also she goes on to describe most anime conventions are heavily based on volunteer labor. So these people are actually not getting paid for the work that they do at conventions. And then they're also paying out of pocket to make the guests happy, because your continued ability to work conventions depends on the guests, having nothing but glowing reviews to say to you. So, and I can kind of believe this because, a lot of actors are kind of jerks like that, and they will pull all sorts of shady stuff. I remember one friend who described 2 incidents with Tom Baker, like the first, when he had just started acting as the 4th Doctor on Doctor Who, and then the second after he had been on there, and there was a huge change of personality where he just morphed from being like this enthusiastic, very nice person to being a complete dick. So, I can kind of believe it based on some of the anecdotes I've heard, but it doesn't really help Vic Mignogna, if he's pulling stuff like this, and then on top of that, he's...
Vic he's very outspoken about his religious beliefs in a community that those religious beliefs are no longer...
Right. And I think part of the problem is people don't mind if he's a Christian.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say,
him pushing it on everyone to the level where he is just... making people uncomfortable about it. And again, I can kind of believe this because I've been involved, introduced to certain members of Christian denominations where, yeah, they are nice people, don't get me wrong, okay? I don't have really anything bad to say about them. But, I did attend some of their church meetings, and they do come across as very militant and very condescending towards people they consider non-Christians, and kind of think it's like their mission to kind of push their religion on everyone else, where it's like, yeah, so I can kind of see where people would think he's being anti-Semitic by trying to convert Jews, but at the same time, it's kind of iffy as to whether that's being anti-Semitic or just being passionate about his religious faith. But it seems like he doesn't know to recognize boundaries, or
this is part of a layer cake of problems he has. He's also center right politically.
Yeah, and that's another thing that
more outspoken.
Yeah, and but also it seems like he's not helping his case by having his fan club called Reasonable Rangers go on to social media and defend him vigorously, and the Anime News Network actually shows screen caps of the Discord chat where he's saying he's basically unsubtle requests to get people to defend him on social media. In fact, a number of the comments on the YouTube video that I did last week actually had people using the hashtag I stand with Vic.
Because some of those defenses are kind of he kind of needs to do some of that, because some people have come out and said, that's my pay.
Yeah. And again, I kind of understand the position he's in. It's like, if people are indeed lying about him, and this is basically just taking things out of context in order to attack him, then it's understandable. But at the same time, stuff
And
like this
also,
doesn't make it look good.
Younger people in the audience, I don't know what our audience is actually like according to YouTube, but if anybody's listening to this who's younger,
Okay, I just lost you, Larry.
and that would be a stranger would give you a hug at a positive emotional point in the conversation.
Right.
And Vic's time frame, 30-ish years in the past, depending on where you're from in the country. In some places it's less in the past than others.
Yeah, you're still cutting out there.
That don't hold up to the dominant cultural standard. And he's also one of the higher paid voice actors.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I only got about half of what you said there because you're cutting in and out there. But I got to get the gist of what you're saying. It's like Vic comes from a time and background where...
Put a target on...
Yeah.
Because he didn't change with the times, or at least put himself in a position where he was protecting himself.
Right.
Like, he doesn't... He's close to them, but he does not make any direct body contact at any point in time, because Keanu Reeves has to protect himself.
Yeah, and there's and then you linked me to a Reddit post where it says hover hand to shun Keanu Reeves, where they circled how his hands are not actually touching anyone. And it says, you're telling me I can dodge lawsuits? And no, Neil, I'm telling you when the time comes you won't have to, which is a pretty good play on the Matrix. But it is true, though, that... times have changed to the point where you kind of have to do this in order to protect yourself, because you don't want to get a reputation for being too
when he was
grabby with people.
Yeah, and when Vic was giving his crying apology, it's different than when you hear somebody like Kevin Spacey or Bill...
Yeah, it comes across
or
as
Bryan Singer talk about it.
Right, and there's some also questionable stuff, like, for example, a Twitter post you had linked to shows... just saw my mutual on Facebook share this, holy shit, and talks about... and let's see if I can call the picture up, but it's talking about some of his detractors saying how they were going to see if they could Photoshop the picture so it looks like Vic's hand is on your chest. That way no one can claim that it's out of context and it makes Vic look worse than he is. And people are saying, no, that's falsifying evidence. And but it seems like there's people out there who are convinced that he's guilty, and that, but lacking any smoking gun evidence, they want to try and manufacture some, which does not help the accusers or anyone defending them. And then, of course, there's another Twitter post from Action Bastard saying, where he's actually defending homosexuals in public. So I'm going to go.
Everyone that I love. You are not.
All right, so here's.
Fires in hell wait for you, sir.
And you know what, brother? God loves these people as much as he loves
hard
you.
people to religious people like
He loves all of these people as much as he loves you. And until you start preaching that message, you are not communicating God's message.
And I rebuke be zealous.
Judgment, wrath.
Yes, for judgment have I come to this world.
This is
listen to God, man.
On Twitter, with Vic Mignogna actually defending people and actually calling out
Then why don't you preach
people
that?
with signs.
Put up a sign that says that. Put up a sign that says that. No, that says fear, wrath, judgment, flames. That's what your sign says.
You're offended at the word of God.
No, I'm not, brother. I'm trying to tell you what God wants to tell these people.
You're not easily offended, sir.
Jesus.
You're offended at the word
so,
of God.
No, I'm not, brother. I've been studying the Word of God as long as you have.
Like literally.
Pure, all
Yeah,
things
so
are
yeah,
pure,
this is
but
just the
those
entire
are the
video.
cause
I'm
God loves these people as much as He loves
yeah,
you.
Vic is
And
actually
that's
coming
the
to
message
the
you
defense
should be
here.
teaching.
So there's yeah, so there's it's not really clear cut that he's being homophobic. Just that he did kind of refuse to sign some Yahweh and Yuri
He
drawings, and
didn't
also
want to autograph Yowie fan art of his own characters that he did voices for.
yeah, and he kind of. And I don't think he kind of helped himself by kind of bullshitting the reasons why by saying that it's not canon instead of saying that it's just against my personal beliefs. Because, and then the other thing that apparently leads to the homophobic allegations is that, when someone asked him if the character he voiced was gay, and he said that as he was told by the person who actually created it, the character was not meant to be gay. And I kind of see how that would be innocent because Frank Oz was blasted on Twitter by people who want to see Bert and Ernie as gay, and Frank Oz was saying, well, I didn't create them to be gay or straight or anything. They're puppets and they're not meant to be sexualized. So I can kind of see both sides where it's like on the one hand, he's actually been very vehement in defending LGBT persons and actually worked with them on Star Trek Continues. But, at the same time, he's also trying to be diplomatic and say, okay, well, it's fine if you want to consider this character gay and representing you, but, that's not, just as I was told, it's not how it was meant to be portrayed. But, there are fans who are going to latch onto a given character and kind of identify with it, and because they don't feel there's sufficient representation, being told that it's not meant to do that, I can see how some people might think that's wrong, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but that's not really something that I think is worth getting worked up about.
Also, more importantly, you have to also...
Okay, just lost you again. You have to also...
Also, you have to take into consideration that's a big part of the business now.
Yeah, and it's it's really kind of like this.
You can't really just
it's really a touchy subject where it's like just trying to navigate it can be a problem. So
yeah.
It just seems like there's really not a whole lot that you can really say one way or the other. It doesn't look good, some of the decisions he's made in trying to defend himself, because it seems to look bad. But on the other hand, there does seem to be very active effort to use dishonest methods to try and discredit him. So, to me, this is like, the more I learn about this, the less I believe it. Whereas with someone like Les Moonves or Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein, the more information comes out, the more plausible the accusations become.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So,
and Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey. Oh, my God. Because I do have LGBT friends and relatives, and, I can't help but think that Kevin Spacey using the accusations against him by a cast member from STD.
Well, you saw that video.
Where
the video came out, Thanksgiving, where he threatened to reveal other people's secrets.
Yeah, and that doesn't help him. But, Kevin Spacey using the opportunity of Anthony Rapp accusing him of trying to molest him to come out of the closet, it's like that doesn't really help LGBT persons when, they're already fighting against, largely bullshit allegations of being pedophiles. And then you're using this 30-year-old accusation to come out of the closet. And it's like, how does that reflect on the LGBT community where they already have to kind of fight against all this stuff? And then you're caught doing it. And, then you decide to try and tie it to your sexuality. It's like, well, no, don't do that, man. You're being a freaking slime ball here and showing that you're not really apologetic here. So, so that doesn't help. But in the case of Vic Mignogna, it does seem like the accusations are really kind of bullshit, and he does actually seem sincere in his apology and in his statements.
Been helpful to.
Right. So, I mean, to me, it just seems like the more I learn about this, the less I believe the allegations against him.
And that this is one of those stories that sometimes with hot internet news stories, what you need to do more than anything is just let them play.
Yeah, and wait for enough information to come out before making a final judgment. So, and it seems like there is eventually going to be some more information coming out. But yeah, so far it looks like to me, I just don't have any reason to believe the allegations so far. It just seems like the photos that are being used, they've got the girls' faces pixelated, so we can't really tell, based on their facial expressions, how comfortable or uncomfortable they may or may not feel. And but at the same time, I can also kind of see how the allegations could be perceived as being credible because the people in question are minors, and it's like in this day and age you really do have to exercise a lot better judgment because people are less inclined to view physical interactions as being innocent. So yeah. So
yeah.
Any final thoughts on this before we wrap up?
Well,
and of course your mic cuts out.
It's changed. We need to be thoughtful about how we approach people who don't want to change.
Yeah, because it seems like this is one of those things where Vic is trying to be upstanding here, and I think maybe people are kind of attacking him over his politics, but at the same time he's not helping himself with some of the decisions he's made. Yeah. So, but anyway, if you like what you've heard and you want to hear more, feel free to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to receive notifications whenever we upload new content. Let us know what you think of the video in the comments section. Do you agree, disagree? Do you have anything to add to this if you've personally interacted with Vic Mignogna? Feel free to leave a comment and add your voice to the dialogue. If you want to support the channel, help us improve the quality of the podcast, please feel free to head over to our Patreon and Subscribestar page. Become a donor. You'll receive the
connection. That would be that'd be a useful one right about now.
Yeah, because Larry's having some connection issues here, which is why his microphone keeps cutting out.
It is, but good.
Yeah, so anyway, this is Michael, Wilk, and Larry Bernard for the Wilk Report saying take care, good night, and we're out.